Greetings, my dears, in love and light. Nikki Sutton here. Now, today I'd like to talk about stages of spiritual awakening. Now, I talk about things because they're relevant at the moment. And what I found through sessions and talking to people and messages and all the people I come into contact with is that spiritual awakening has some profound stages, and they are kind of common to most people. Now, everyone's different, of course. Everyone's spiritual awakening is different. It might be a long awakening that just starts when you're born and you have certain realizations and things change over time. Or you might have a sudden, intense, nutty, crazy spiritual awakening where everything just changes for you. But what I found is that there's these stages that people go through, and I can say to someone, how are you doing in your spiritual awakening? And they'll say, oh, not so good, or oh, wow, I've got a newfound appreciation for beauty, things like this. And I can pinpoint where they are. And I'll say, how long ago did you have your awakening, your initial awakening? And they'll say, and I can say, according to all the other stories I've heard, where they are in their awakening, and predict some possibilities of what's next, especially if they're in a dark place, to help them look forward. But the dark places need to be worked through as well. So here are lots of different stages of spiritual awakening. I'll go through them quickly because I've observed so many, so I won't dwell on each one. But so that you know that on your spiritual awakening path, the things you've gone through and where you are now and potentially what's to come, you're not alone. This happens to others frequently, more and more so nowadays. It's happening more and more. So don't feel strange, crazy, weird. It's very normal. Okay, so these are in the best order as I can make. But the order is different for everyone, and some people miss out these stages altogether. So the first stage is obviously the revelation, the realization. Now this is for the sudden awakeners. Suddenly they think, what's going on? Reality's different. So it may be a certain catalyst, like they would have a paranormal event happen, like a near-death experience, an out-of-body experience. They might see a ghost, they might have mediumistic contact. All sorts of things could happen. And they think, oh, there's something more to reality then. If this can be real, what else is real? Or a sudden traumatic event like the death of a loved one, or a relationship breakup, a move, a loss of finances. Any kind of significant event can cause you to re-examine the self, and spirituality starts filling in that gap. So another stage of spiritual awakening, which is close to that, is realizing the nature of reality is different to what you thought, and realizing the nature of self is different to what you thought. Now here's another stage. Now these stages can last days, weeks, months, even years. So next is the ego dissolution. The ego is stripped bare. So if I'm not what I thought I was, well, what the hell am I? If reality isn't what I thought it was, I've been brainwashed into thinking, well, what the hell is it? So here's another stage of spiritual awakening, the searching and seeking. Now the searching and seeking, I find, lasts pretty much the whole way through the awakening, because you're constantly trying to find answers. But this is the concentrated searching and seeking stage. You know that stage where you're on YouTube until 1 a.m, you're trying to tell yourself to go to bed, and you keep clicking on more videos because it's blowing your mind? Or that you pick up an amazing book like The Law of One, the Raw Material, or something by Eckhart Tolle, or anything like that, and you're reading thinking, oh my God, I was under such illusions. Everything is different to how I thought it was. So you're trying to find answers. But then here's another stage of spiritual awakening, the paranoia and fear. Because it can get to a point where, for example, you're researching things like the conspiracies and the satanic cabal and the things they get up to, and you start to feel a bit paranoid. Maybe you're being watched. Maybe they're looking for you because of what you know. I know I had that, and I know many others that have had that. And you start to think, maybe there's spirits around. Maybe there's demons watching me. Maybe there's demons within me. Maybe I'm possessed. And paranoid that others are looking at you. Or think you're crazy. Well, that's another stage in itself. But there's a lot of paranoia and there's a lot of fear. And that can lead from the things you're learning. But then we go into another stage of spiritual awakening, which is the dark night of the soul. Now, some people manage to skip this, especially if their awakening was a bit longer and gentler, and they've been brought up in a spiritual family, and they're used to things like psychic abilities and meditation and yoga. But the dark night of the soul can hit when it's all a bit of a shock and things go dark. Please see my video on the dark night of the soul, so I don't need to go into it too much here. But this dark night of the soul, it's an intense healing phase, but it's an intense purging phase. All your darkness comes out because of your ego death, and you don't know who you are anymore, and you're trying to rebuild. You get dark. Everything that's ever bothered you, and you realise there's such a thing as inner work and it can be done yourself, it makes you get dark. You feel out of alignment with everyone else, and it causes you to feel lonely and isolated. So 2 more stages of spiritual awakening is the loneliness, so you're at odds with friends and family. Please see my video on my friends and family reaction to my spiritual awakening. So they might look at you and think that you've gone a bit crazy, and so you feel like, oh gosh, they in a way they don't love me anymore, they're rejecting me, my family, friends are rejecting me. So loneliness, needing to find others when you're ready, of a similar like mind. Then the isolation. Now this is a biggie, and a lot of people say this, nearly everyone says this, nearly, if it's a sudden awakening, that they isolate themselves. And why is that? Because they can't face anyone, they can't cope with anything, they feel at odds with everyone, so they purposefully isolate themselves and carry on the searching and seeking. Do you know what else happens? A lot of people quit their jobs because they see through the 9-to-5 paradigm and the system that they're in. They start to question the system, think, hang on, I was brainwashed into this system, my goals were success driven, money driven. Is that really why I'm alive? Quit my job. Pointless. I did it. I quit my job. What's the point? Why am I making money from my boss? I was working in a media company when that first hit me. Why am I doing this? I need to do something else. So then we go into the spiritual senses awaken. This is another stage of spiritual awakening that can happen. So you start to realise there are spiritual senses that you have. So inner senses, we call them. So psychic abilities, they might start to blossom. Because what's happened is your consciousness has shifted during your awakening. And creation picks up on this because we're one with creation. And creation says, this person has realised. Now it's time to switch on the senses. Now it's time to show them more catalyst. Because you're holding the vibration of, be it negative or positive, of knowing these things, of searching and seeking about these things. Your mind's opening, so creation says, here you go, try it out. So you start to realise, you start to finish each other's sentences with people that you are close to, you still are close to them. You start to have little premonitions. You start to realise the law of attraction might be something. Synchronicities start to come. You start to see numbers in reality, or repetitive themes going on in reality. And that might be your spirit guides laying out these repetitive themes for you to follow on your path. This is where you must look now. This is where you must look now. Or creation itself revealing the code to you. So all these amazing phenomena start happening more and more to you. So we start to feel a little bit more positive at this point. We start to find a way forward. We're starting to heal. We're starting to emerge from the dark night of the soul. We're starting to integrate this information. So this stage of spiritual awakening is finding balance, finding a way forward. We're starting to integrate it all now. We're starting to feel better, because you do feel better. If you haven't got to that stage yet, you will feel better. There'll be less information, new information now to absorb, and you'll watch videos and read books, and a lot of it you'll have heard before, and some of it will be new information, but you're a bit desensitised to a lot of it now, actually, and it's not so, oh my gosh, reality's massively different. We already accepted that. So it starts to soften, you start to balance. And then here comes another stage of spiritual awakening where we look inwards for inner work. Now, not everyone does this. Most people do. They start to realise, oh, I can heal. And how? The inner peace is found within. So these concepts may have happened earlier, as I say, but inner peace is found within. Happiness is a choice within. Nothing out there can make me happy. It's in here. The present moment contains everything I need. Looking forwards and backwards is just an illusion. And that I can step outside these boundaries I've had for myself. The limiting beliefs I've had have all been a load of rubbish. And I can heal. And every emotion I have is a valid one. And every emotion is a signpost that something, a negative emotion, is a signpost of something that needs healing within. And that resistance is not healing, which is causing more negative disruption within the mind-body-spirit complex. So we look back, we trace those negative emotions back and find out what was the program written in the subconscious that makes me feel this way today. But then sometimes, here's another stage of spiritual awakening. Sometimes we fall off the wagon. Sometimes we just drift away because it's too much, actually. And we might go back to more materialism, or block it out for a bit, go and soak up a load of media, maybe get a bit fearful because we watch the news too much, or soaked up a lot of symbols in movies and music videos or something, and just ignoring our spiritual path for a bit. But you know what? That's normal. You're just awakened, you're not a Buddha yet, none of us are. So it's really normal. And you shut it out for a bit. But then something draws you back, because you know it's your truths, really. Your truths are there. So you might fall off the wagon. That's totally normal. But then we get even more positive. We start to have more acceptance of self. Now, that ego that was crushed to bits, and we've been rebuilding it all the while, we're starting to get used to our new perception of reality. And we're starting to work on the self a lot more. We're feeling a bit better. So we need to accept ourselves. We start to accept ourselves. And what this does is it shows friends and family that I'm okay with myself, actually. And they start to fear less. Oh, he or she is not crazy, actually. They're not paranoid anymore. And there's nothing dangerous happening. I don't have to fear what they're going through. Oh, I can accept them back. I just accept them as being a bit quirky or different in their mind. You know what I mean? So we accept ourselves. It shows others we accept ourselves too. And we can move forward, but then, and rebuild the ego, rebuild the sense of self, perception of self. And it's different, obviously not so egotistical with those illusions we believed. But then that presents the thing, what's my purpose? So this is another stage of spiritual awakening, asking, well, what's my purpose? Now that I've realised all this stuff, I can't unknow it and I can't go back, so what's my purpose? I've got a video on finding your purpose. I won't go into that, it's a big topic. But yes, we start to think, well, what now? Another stage of spiritual awakening might be despair at the lack of change in the world. So we perceive it's all moving a bit slowly when really things are hotting up. Awakenings are happening more and more, and ascension is going forward. But we despair there's still poverty in the world. We'll see poverty, homelessness, unfairness, like the shape of that pyramid in society, and we despair that it's still there. Why is it still happening? And you feel like you can't watch the news and things like that. It's too painful. The negativity is too painful. But then we get hope again. So we might have a bit of despair, then a bit of hope. And we start to have more acceptance of reality, as I said, integrating all that's been learned. And then a wonderful phase that I love to see is recognising the beauty in Mother Gaia. Now open your eyes. Now this may happen earlier on. But you open your eyes and you look at the world and you think, oh my God, I didn't even realise. When you are not observing the present moment, when you're not observing gratitude, that's another thing we learned is gratitude along this path, you're in your bubble, you're in your concrete environment, and you're going to work every day and you're following the system, but then one day you wake up and you look around, you get the urge to go into nature. It's another stage, connect with nature. And you think, wow, it's beautiful. You see rainbows, you see butterflies, you see feathers, you see all these things, and you hug a tree and you realise you can feel its energy. So you start to connect with Gaia, and that's a natural triggering in your subconscious, because you are of the earth. Every atom in your body came from the earth. You're of the earth, a creature of it. So we start to feel inner peace, real inner peace. And we start to look chilled, and everything's better. Now, you may not be at this point yet, but I see it. A lot of the clients I have, they've got to this point, they feel chilled, like everything's all right with the world. And others, well, obviously we want to work for a better world, but it doesn't trigger you within anymore. You work for a better world, but you feel like this is my path, this is their path, everything's all right. We'll move forward in love and light, and we'll get there. And you don't rest on your laurels, but you don't feel triggered anymore. And you get to that point, and it's lovely. And people want some of what you've got, some of that chill, and that inspires them to awaken, actually. Why are they so chilled out? And yet they're taking everything in their stride, and they're doing good works in service to others. I want some of that. And then more realizations happen. Here we go, much further down the path. We start to be able to have love for everyone and everything, no matter what. Please see my video on that. Realising that unity is key, not competitiveness, but cooperation. The urge for service to others. Now, many people have had this all their life. Service to others without expectation of return. We are all one. It will be returned to you 100-fold. An urge to help others in order to raise the vibration and lead by example. So these realizations come, and then we live in that way, and everything feels much better. And that's the bit to get to it, and it may take 2, 3, 4, 5 years. But you get there in the end if you keep doing it inner work. But remember, there's also the darkness route, the route of darkness and fear. And some people get into that if they look at too many conspiracy facts, too many of these things, and get sucked into it, and it hurts too badly. You can end up a bit stuck in the dark night of the soul, stuck in the anger, stuck in the fear, and fighting negativity with fear and anger will not cancel it out. The negativity needs to be combated with love. But if you get stuck in that dark place, you've got to try and move forward to those next stages that are a bit lighter. Do that inner work. Look at why you're feeling angry. Give the alternative media even a break, and turn to some lighter material that will help you realise positive things about reality, because you can't help and move forward unless you're feeling better yourself. So those have been some stages of spiritual awakening for you, and that's to help you feel a bit better, to know that you're not the only one. In fact, there are many, and there's many, many more people experiencing these too. And if you've got more stages that you've been through, please leave them in the comments section, because it does help others, and it helps myself and my knowing as well. And the comment section is for you to support each other and chat about these things as well. It's a place to come together. So thank you for listening today, and don't forget to click subscribe if you're not already a subscriber, to receive regular spiritual inspiration on your journey through life. Like and share also, because we're raising a mass vibration together. So go now, in love and peace.